staring at the ceiling.
There you go. Literally at the 1 minute mark. So, yeah.
Imagine this. You're lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling. Your mind drifts into one of those late night spirals. You think, what's the meaning of my life? Am I really free to make my own choices? Why do I always procrastinate even though I know I shouldn't? Now, here's the fascinating part. Both philosophy and psychology claim to have answers to these exact questions. Philosophy comes in with thousands of years of wisdom, deep debates, and logical reasoning. Psychology shows up with experiments, brain scans, and data.
I think philosophy still does experiments. It's called experimental philosophy. So, like, experimental philosophy was like created during the experimental created like in the 19th century or X5. It's an emerging field of philosophy and philosophical inquiry that makes use of empirical data, often gathered through surveys, which probe the intuitions of ordinary people in order to reform research on philosophical questions. Yeah, like these, this use, like philosophical methodology that replaces whatever. Like intentional actions to do whatever you want so they can see. Yeah, pretty much. 2000. What? And John Dewey, a famous philosopher. Experimentalism. Yeah, it's called experimentalism, so pretty much. So, like, the father of experimentalism. John Dewey, pretty much. He was a philosopher of experiments.
Driven insights. Same questions. Totally different approaches. But together, they can give us
this AI is killing me.
A more complete picture of what it means to be human. That's what we're diving into today. Psychology versus philosophy. What makes them different? What makes them similar? And how they can actually teach each other. And trust me, this is going to change the way you think about your own mind. Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the science and ideas that shape the way we think, feel, and live. If you're a student, you've probably been asked, wait, isn't psychology just philosophy with science? Or maybe you're an adult who's wondered why therapy feels practical and grounded, while philosophy books feel more abstract and, let's be honest, sometimes head-spinning. So today, let's really unpack it. We'll explore the similarities between philosophy and psychology, the big differences that set them apart, some fascinating real-life examples like the debate on free will, and finally, what each discipline can actually teach the other. Stick around until the end, because I'll also show you how understanding the relationship between these two fields can help you make better decisions in your everyday life, whether it's choosing a career, handling relationships, or even deciding how to spend your time. The shared DNA, where psychology meets philosophy. Let's start with the family resemblance. Philosophy and psychology might seem different today, but originally they were one and the same.
Yeah, I think they were, because I think every subject, like math, science, whatever, came from philosophy. Like, what was the first study to have a name back in BCE? science, history, law, and more. Maybe we can see like the history. There you go. So like if we go down here, natural philosophy was transformed by the scientific revolution, and oh you're right, by Nicholas Copernicus, as new ideas and discoveries departed from previous Greek conceptions and traditions, like the philosophy of the earth and of how we see it, but also like they thought earth was comprised of 4 elements, which is not true, and the 4 elements wasn't really true, of earth, wind, fire, and earth, like rock. Blah blah. Okay. Principle regarding conversation of energy, age of earth, evolution. So pretty much, yeah, like this intertwined history, the foundation. So pretty much it was psychology. Psychology was philosophy. It just had it, like as soon as there was science into it, we call it psychology.
In fact, the word psychology literally means the study of the soul in Greek. Psyche, for soul or mind, and logos for study.
Yeah.
For centuries, psychology was considered a branch of philosophy. Think of Aristotle. In his work De Anima, on the soul, he explored memory, perception, and emotions, topics we now put squarely in psychology. Descartes later asked, how do the mind and body interact? Another question psychologists still investigate. Here's a modern everyday example.
The mind and the body, I thought they're all the same. Because when I look into myself, I don't see myself as many things as you see me. And I'm not sure because I'll come to the realization of death or whatever, but like, whenever I look into myself in the mirror, like a mirror, the first thing that I see in myself is nothing, because I just see as an organism who can think. You know, who can think. Not really like Owen Gabriel, who likes this ABC and does the ABC and whatever. No.
You're scrolling through TikTok and you see a video about happiness. A philosopher might ask, what exactly is happiness? Is it pleasure, virtue, or...
Virtue? What was it?
A philosopher might ask, what exactly is happiness? Is it pleasure?
Pleasure, virtue. I think just happiness. Like, to put it simply, like, barely philosophical, like a very bad, not very good answer, would be the act of the present time where you're distracted of what you're doing, and that's it. Like, it doesn't need to be like that happy that we all think of, like when we're focused of doing something like walking, that is happiness. You may not realize it, but it's true.
Virtue, or something else entirely? A psychologist might instead ask, what activities increase happiness levels in measurable ways?
But are those like things really contributing to the happiness? Like, is it? Because I'm more into philosophy.
But notice, are still tackling the same core human concern. Both psychology and philosophy are obsessed with big questions about the human mind and behavior, consciousness, morality, decision-making, identity, and what it means to live well. They just have different toolkits. The big split, methods and goals. Here's where things get interesting, the split. Philosophy is the realm of abstract reasoning. Philosophers are like architects of ideas. They don't usually run experiments. Instead,
yes, they do. It's called experimentalism. Like, as we just saw. Like, how, like, what percentage of philosophy does experiments? Holy shit, I check out the spelling. Of philosophy does experiments. Well, this is AI, but still. So like, so like in major philosophy topics, like 2%. But overall, like every philosopher on earth, around 50%. So they do it. They do use experiments, like psychology is just not really a common way to practice. Like 2% on publication and 5% on a daily, and half of all philosophers use them on a daily basis.
They use logic, debate, and thought experiments to clarify concepts. Take the classic thought experiment, the trolley problem. You're at the controls of a runaway trolley. If you do nothing, it will hit 5 people.
If you ask me what I would do, I'll probably switch the lever to save 4 people. I mean 5 people. Come on, are we stupid?
If you pull a lever, it will switch tracks and kill 1 person instead.
Yeah.
What do? Philosophers use this scenario to test moral principles. Is it better to save more lives, or is it always wrong to actively cause harm? Now compare that to psychology. Psychologists are like engineers. They want to see how the structure actually works in real life. So instead of debating the trolley problem...
Yeah, but to see the things in real life, you need to think about the humans. Like, what does that mean to the human ethics?
Well, they might put people in simulated experiments and measure their choices. They might track heart rates, brain activity, or stress levels.
Yeah, but you're doing it on such an individual level where you're not doing it as a whole, like philosophy.
To understand why people make certain decisions. So the goal of philosophy is understanding and coherence. The goal of psychology is prediction, explanation, and sometimes even control of behavior. Philosophy says, what is happiness? Psychology says, here's how gratitude journaling increases happiness scores in studies. They're looking...
See, that's so specific. Like, it doesn't contribute to everyone. Which is why I think as humans we're flawed, because we need to find an answer for everything. Like, we don't.
Looking at the same mountain, but from different vantage points. One from above, one from within. Free will versus decision making.
Why do they keep using the same fucking freaking animation?
To make this more concrete, let's talk about free will, one of the oldest debates. Philosophers from the Stoics to Kant to Sartre wrestled with whether humans are...
Who is Sartre? Jean-Paul Sartre, a French philosopher and playwright. Interesting. So 20th century French philosophy, Marxism, existentialism, phenomenology. Phenomenology is a philosophical study and movement largely associated with the early 20th, whatever. Critical theory plus colonial theory, literary study, Nobel Prize, Nobel Literature Prize. Okay.
Are free agents or whether our lives are determined by forces outside our control. Sartre famously said we're condemned to be free, always responsible for our choices, even if it terrifies us. But then psychology and neuroscience entered the chat. In the 1980s, Benjamin Libet ran an experiment that shocked the world. He asked participants to flex their wrist whenever they felt like it, while hooked up to a brain scanner. The results? The brain showed activity signaling the movement before the participants consciously decided.
Yeah, but what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't understand. Like, why? There's no sense to it. Doesn't mean that pleasure is good or bad. Like, I don't understand. Like, should we continue it, and how so?
To move. It looked like the brain was deciding before the conscious mind was even aware. Does that mean free will doesn't exist? Not exactly. Psychologists and neuroscientists debated this for decades, suggesting maybe free will exists, but more as a veto power, the ability to stop an action rather than initiate it. This is where psychology enriches philosophy. It doesn't end the debate, but it grounds it in evidence. Philosophers keep asking, what does this mean for moral responsibility? Psychologists keep testing the boundaries with data. Okay, so far this sounds academic, but let's bring it down to earth. How does this affect you? Think about therapy. When someone goes to counseling for anxiety, psychology provides the tools.
Yeah.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy, mindfulness. These are evidence-based strategies that change thoughts and behaviors, but philosophy underlies the ethics. Should therapists impose their own view of what a good life looks like, or should they help clients define it for themselves? That's a philosophical debate about autonomy and morality, or consider politics and law. Psychologists study how biases affect juries, how people conform to authority, or why crowds act irrationally. But philosophers debate justice itself. What is fairness?
I just think like philosophy is underappreciated academic. Like people don't really learn it, which is sad, and yet they get angry. So,
what rights should people have? What's the purpose of punishment? Even technology is a battleground. Psychologists investigate how Instagram impacts self-esteem or how algorithms influence behavior. Philosophers ask, is it ethical for companies to design apps that hijack human attention? In other words, philosophy asks the why and the should. Psychology shows the how.
should I totally feel that should they do it? Is it right? Is it wrong? Morality? So.
In your daily life, both are influencing everything from your mental health to your phone habits.
If I see that stock footage ever again, like another time, I'm gonna lose my mind with the old man holding a pen.
Habits. So what can psychology learn from its older sibling, philosophy? First, conceptual clarity. Before you can measure something, you have to know what you're measuring. For example, what exactly is intelligence? Is it
Anyways, I do think the meaning of intelligence is how capable you are with problem solving. I might be wrong though. Like, not really how smart, like how much stuff you know that smart is or whatever, but like intelligence, how well you can like manage problems and like break things down. The ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Yeah, like do knowledge and skills. Like to break things down. Yeah, like intelligence and knowledge. Yeah, no, personality, knowledge. Or acquisition, it's inborn, like the intelligence, but knowledge acquired through a learning process. Yeah, like I said, like it's natural for us to break things down, which is why we have math, like to analyze, to be analytical. Uniqueness, it is unique to each individual. I do agree because that's how we learn and how we thrive. Everyone's different. Knowledge is versatile and can be the same with many different people. I think like knowledge comes from intelligence. Like we can learn someone intelligence, but that won't be intelligence to us if we knowledge. Can be acquired through practice, that's true. Requires persistent, yeah, like application helps individual to decide ways to deal with that situation or solve that problem at hand. Helps one know of a problem or situation, how it can, yeah, pretty much.
Problem-solving ability, emotional insight, creativity. Philosophers help refine the concepts so psychologists don't end up measuring apples and calling them oranges. Second, ethical grounding. Psychology has had its share of controversial moments. The Milgram obedience experiment, where people thought they were electrocuting others, or the Stanford prison experiment, where participants were traumatized. These studies were valuable scientifically, but raised huge ethical red flags. Philosophy provides the ethical guardrails. It forces psychology to ask, just because we can run an experiment, does that mean we should? Without philosophy, psychology risks becoming a toolbox without a compass. And it goes both ways. Philosophy benefits from psychology, too. Philosophy is brilliant at raising questions, but sometimes it makes assumptions about human.
Yeah, that's what they do. They make assumptions. Like, we do. Because we don't know everything about humans. It's like we know everything about the earth, but we're gonna make assumptions. If we know everything about everything, then it should be facts, but we don't. Even psychology, they're calling it the facts even though we don't know. But yes, I think that should be the way to some human nature.
Nature that just don't hold up. That's where psychology steps in. Take morality. For centuries, philosophers assumed people make moral decisions through reason, but psychological research, like Jonathan Haidt's studies, shows most moral decisions are driven
Why?
by gut feelings and emotions first. Reason often comes later, to justify what we already feel.
Yeah.
Or take happiness. Philosophers debated whether happiness comes from virtue, pleasure, or detachment.
Like, where does happiness come from? Like, the experience of enjoying the present. That's happiness. And you're not thinking about something. Like, you're not pushing it away. Because that counterforce. You know, that's a force in human nature. Like, does it make sense? That's what happiness is. Like, when I was drinking the water, I was happy. When I'm holding this pencil, I'm happy. You know, once this fan is going on, I'm happy. You know, because because I can let the room cool down. You know, even though I'm not physically happy about it, you know.
Psychology tested it. Positive psychology research shows practices like gratitude, kindness, and flow states actually increase well-being.
Like I said, yeah, because you're not pushing it away. It's ethically right. It's moral. Like, yeah.
In short, psychology helps philosophy stay connected to reality. It takes the lofty ideas and tests them against how humans actually think and behave.
Yeah.
So what's the bottom line? Philosophy and psychology aren't enemies, they're partners. Philosophy gives us the big questions, the ethical compass, and the conceptual clarity. Psychology gives us the experiments, the data, and the practical applications. If you lean philosophical, you love exploring meaning, morality, and existence.
Mm-hmm.
If you lean psychological, you love
Like
understanding
behavior.
behavior, habits, and the brain. But the real
The mind.
magic happens when you use both. When you ask big philosophical questions, then ground them in psychological evidence. And you don't need to be an academic to do this. Next time you're making a decision, try both approaches. Philosophical. What's the right thing to do? What's meaningful here? Psychological. What does research say about human behavior in situations like this? Combining them can make you a wiser, more balanced thinker. So, I'll leave you with this question. Do you see yourself more as a philosopher or a psychologist? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear.
Okay, we're done. Okay.